play day, pay. Before I craft the spot, stay at home a lot. Cause when I run the plots that I'm known to concoct, can hear the screams of fools when I fall them rocks. Elven ladies, they pay homage, but players say, hey fellow, how? My last game was supersonic. How they wondering if I still got it? They say the game's changed, they wanna know what I think about it.
If you ain't rolling dice,
Game Master A's the name and I'm running this game. Still reading the splat, still planning attacks, still not wanting your crap.
Hello, and welcome to yet another episode of THACA, or 2-Hit Armor Class Awesome, with your host, Alex. For this edition of THACA, I was going to talk about, well, it's kind of covered, not really, in my first episode at all. It's not really covered at all in my first episode, but I kind of alluded to female gamers. Female gamers are far and few between, which I think is partially due to why role-playing games themselves aren't really that popular, and partially due to for a long time in role-playing, at least, there were I think the construction and design of the books were kind of slanted. I mean, to give you an example, I have here the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons Player's Handbook. This is actually a re-release. It looks all nice and stuff. If you look through the book, there's always a chapter in these books that are about classes and such, and they always have kind of an illustration or a picture to give you a good idea of the class before you start reading about it. For example, warrior. There you go. There's a warrior right there. Look at that guy. Yeah, it's a warrior. Yeah, paladin. Yeah, that's a guy. Wizard. Yep, that's a wizard. Cleric. The cleric. That's a guy. Druid. Also a guy. You get the point. There's no... in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons, it was kind of a foregone conclusion that this was kind of a guy thing. Now, there's nothing inherently about these books that are guy-oriented. They just... I don't know what it is. Maybe it's the fantasy part of it that people are like, yeah, girls don't like fantasy, even though that's kind of like... that I don't see where you could draw that conclusion from. So that's like that. The first editions just didn't really acknowledge the existence of women, although sometimes, like a lot of role-playing books, actually I'm not sure if it's true of Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, but whenever they give an example of play, they always kind of go to great lengths to mix up pronouns like he and she. I don't know if that's true in AD&D, but recently they've been trying to mix it up, like not assuming that whoever's playing is a guy. Now, also, as editions have gone on, I think they've gotten better about this, but they've also kind of, in some cases, are missing the point. Just like a lot of artwork, for if you go into other editions of D&D, and you see the classes, they'll have classes, and then they'll have the picture like you saw on there, and it won't always be a guy, it'll be a girl. But sometimes they're just kind of like, you know how the wizard, you saw the wizard in the AD&D book, it's a pretty regular looking wizard. He has a staff, he has a beard, and he has a pointy hat and robes. Nothing too weird or zany about that picture. Okay, so we saw the AD&D wizard. let's look at what a Pathfinder sorceress looks like. It's a little bit different. You'll probably notice the clothes are kind of the choice of clothes are kind of different. Pathfinder sorceress. Yeah, I mean it's not bad. It's believe me, this is progress. She's not wearing a lot of clothes, but this is progress. I've seen an edition of an Advanced Dungeons and Dragons PDF where it just has a woman on the front cover and she's just nothing. She's naked. She's titties. It just seems weird. She has long flowing hair, big titties, and just like a thong and like swords and shit. And it doesn't just strike you as like, I mean, these books are probably predominantly written by men. For unknown reasons, the hobby is, well, unknown to a certain extent and known to a certain extent. Reasons. The hobby's kind of dominated by dudes. There are women that play, and trust me, when you run across a female role player, you should encourage the hobby and kind of, you know, kind of try and break the stereotypes, as it were, of the gamer who doesn't know how to interact with a woman, or in general with people. I think the progression of this kind of stuff, though, in the hobby is getting a lot better. Like, I mean, the Pathfinder one that I just showed you, that's the most revealing one in the book, which is kind of, you know, I mean, I know it looked like she was just wearing like cloth and like nothing else. It's a lot. There's a better one. Hold on. Brace yourself. It's a paladin. It's a paladin that's a woman and not white. A paladin that's a woman and not white. And she's not revealing anything. Look at that. That is full plate. Mm-hmm. True full plate. She's not showing a goddamn thing. She's leaving a lot up to the imagination. That never happens. At least, I mean, I don't want to exaggerate. It's very refreshing to see an acknowledgement of other races and, well, skin tones and, you know, genders mashed into one. That was crazy. That blew my mind. Yeah, generally speaking, like that right there is a fucking huge step forward for these neckbeards who make these games. I know it sounds like I'm being really derogatory towards the people who put these games together, but I can't really. I mean, I'm them. These guys are white dudes who put together fantasy worlds and game mechanics in order to play Dungeons and Dragons. I am their demographic. But yeah, it's gotten a lot better, and it's going to get better, I think, because there's just been a lot of I think role-playing games have gained in prominence. I don't know why, really. It could be I have the feeling that it's because I don't know. I could probably speculate it maybe because of the inclusiveness, like people who've never played before are playing, and it's kind of like demystified the genre, so it's not so weird and esoteric anymore like it was back in the day. Probably, I mean, this is Vampire the Requiem. Probably notable for having the most revealing character portrait is that of a man. That never happens. And it's the Deva. This is the most revealing character portrait because he's not wearing a shirt. And that's kind of the point. I mean, Devas are lustful, and they use their powers to attract people of the opposite sex. And you gotta admire the restraint of the people who made the book, because usually that character archetype would not be a male. Because it would be a female, especially given the nature of the audience who's reading it, and predominantly male. And I'm guessing the creators of it were predominantly male, but alas, the sex symbol of the book is a male. That's pretty that's pretty noteworthy. And the pictures of the female characters are pretty tasteful. I mean, there's quite a bit of cleavage in this picture, but but other than that, she's completely covered up. I don't even know if this looks like a guy, but it could easily be a underdeveloped woman. I don't know. He's who knows? And this is a Nosferatu. It begs the you could go either way on that one. And then there's the final adventure, Avatar, who's even probably less. Well, I don't know about that. They're probably equally dignified in their pictures. But as you see, yeah, there was multiple chances to be overtly explicit with the female anatomy in that book, and they didn't take it. And that's part of why I think the books are getting better, because the chainmail bikini attire that usually female avatars of the books wear are kind of going out of style. I mean, the thing is, the warrior women are starting to look more like warrior women. Like, they wear armor, and they fight with swords and shields and shit. Back in the day, they were like, bathing suit wearing. There were metal bathing suits that they wore, and they would like fight dragons and shit with it, which is kind of reminds me of like the Princess Leia, Return of the Jedi choking the shit out of the Jabba scene. But yeah, now they're wearing sensible clothes when they fight, at least in artist depictions of them. But the magic users who aren't in the front and fighting, they sometimes are depicted as wearing like, close to, like the sorcerers I showed you, kind of wearing close to nothing. That's, what are you gonna do? I don't think it's completely bad, but I mean, like, back in older editions, it was too much. It was all the time. But yeah, that's pretty much it with this episode. I just wanted to be like, hey, if you know a female gamer, keep her gaming. It's a good hobby. We need more girls. We need more perspective when it comes to that. We don't have much. So anything that you can get, any diversity of perspective that you can get, it's good for the whole ecosystem of this hobby. So do it. And thanks for watching.
Still rock my crew with a bard and a thief. Still got love for the meats, reppin' D&D. Still, the feet hang, still running this thing. From third to fourth, ain't too much change.
I'm representing for the players all across the world.
Still,
Killing kobolds with my claymore, girl.
still, taking time to perfect the sheep. And I still got love for the feet. It's the D&D.
I'm representing for the players all across the world.
Still,
Killing kobolds with my claymore, girl.
still.